guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today's video I am pretty excited about because I've wanted to film this for a while and I just haven't really ever gotten around to filming it. But basically it's kind of like a continuation of a video that I filmed last year around the same time. So if you guys have been watching my channel for a while, last year, I think honestly this might have been the first video that I ever posted on this channel, was a video basically talking about my experience being in a sorority, why I left being in a sorority, and all of that. And if you want a quick rundown, basically I was in a sorority my freshman and sophomore year of college, which was literally like forever ago now that I'm thinking about it because I've been out of college for a year now. So it's been a minute since I've been in one. And over time I've had time to process a lot of things about like why I didn't like it, what was kind of like not great about it. And I don't know, I wanted to film a continuation video on that video because I did get a really positive response, which was kind of surprising because I know a lot of people have really strong opinions about sororities. I feel like a lot of people are either very pro or very against. I am somewhere in the middle. I think that people either it's for them or it's not. And I don't think there's anything wrong with them. If you love it, that's great. That's awesome for you. I know a lot of girls who absolutely love being in sororities, and I know a lot of girls who were in sororities and liked it and then were kind of like me, ended up leaving for their own personal reasons. So it is one of those topics that is kind of like iffy to talk about, I feel like, just because people do have really strong opinions. But I just want to clarify, as I clarified in that video, I have no negative feelings about sorority, the girls that were in the sorority, or anything. Overall, it was a good learning experience. I feel like I became a lot more of a social person through it. It just wasn't for me, and I have my own reasons for that, and I kind of talked about it in that video. So if you guys want to see that video, I will link it down below. However, yesterday I was at work, and I actually have a couple of girls that work at my job who are in sororities, and they were talking about upcoming recruitment because obviously school is starting back really soon, and they were just kind of talking about things that they hated about like getting ready for all of this and all of that. So I kind of just went back and I was rewatching my video, and one of the recommended videos was a video that was actually by a girl, I will link it down below as well, that was basically talking about 5 things that she personally hated about being in her sorority. And so I thought, Mel, I was like, you know, I didn't go into a whole lot of detail about things that I really hated. I did tell a couple stories in my first video, and I thought to myself, you know what, let's film a video where I'm just really blunt about like the top 5 things that I absolutely hated about being in a sorority, and that way you guys kind of get a better feel for it. Once again, this isn't me trying to like encourage people to either not go Greek or to go Greek. Like, it has nothing to do with that. I just literally want to share my story like I did a year ago. This is just going to be a little more condensed and just basically be focusing on specific topics rather than my whole entire experience. So if you want to see my whole entire experience, that video will be linked down below. And if you want to hear some more specifics that I hated, just keep watching this video. Okay guys, so the first thing that I hated about being in a sorority, and I feel like this should be obvious because you're obviously in a room full of girls, 100+ girls, it was the drama that would come up. And the drama was just, I don't know, it was so stupid. I specifically remember in my sorority, there were a couple of girls who were like, I don't know how to say this, were drama starters. Like, anytime there was drama in this sorority, it surrounded these particular females. And it just got to the point where you would constantly hear people shit talking them, and it was just like, they can't be doing something wrong every single time. Like, at this point I felt like a lot of times people would make up stuff about them just because like they did have drama around them, but every single week there would be something new surrounding them. And I don't know, I knew a lot of these girls and I felt like they weren't bad people. I felt like there was just certain times where they didn't vibe with everybody else, and like you do one bad thing and people judge you on that for the rest of your life. So I know there was a couple girls who really got stuck with that, and they would always be in the middle of the drama even if like they really didn't do anything. It was just like anything people could do to like be like, oh well, she did this, she did that, blah blah blah, to make other people not like them. It was a thing. And I remember specifically sitting there because one of the girls I actually thought was really like a nice person. She definitely had her own like issues. Like, she was not like the world's nicest person, and she definitely was very blunt. But as a person overall, I didn't think she was as terrible as everybody always made her out to be. I just think a lot of people had like personal vendettas against her. And because of that, you would see a lot of drama surrounding her. And I honestly kind of felt bad for her because it was like she would try to be a better person, but then people would bring up stuff from her past, and it was just like a lot of drama. And like I said, this kind of surrounded a lot of people. I just remember one girl in particular because I actually really liked her as a person, and I felt really bad for her, but I think she ended up leaving, so that's good for her, I guess. And she seems like she has her life together, so that's good. But yeah, the drama was just ridiculous. I'm just not a dramatic person. I don't really like to have beef with people. I tend to just like talk it out if I do. So the drama and constantly trying to make people... Love the sirens. I literally live across from a fire department now. Love that. But yeah, no, the drama was just too much at times, and I don't know, it was just so much, and it was so much surrounded by certain people that it was just annoying. And I tend to hang out with a lot of guys. I do hang out with a good amount of girls still, but on the regular I do hang out with a good amount of guys now, and I just have to say, like, guys, way less dramatic. Dumber than girls for sure, but way less dramatic. So yeah, the drama was just something that I was not into. I was not into constantly judging somebody on their past. Like I said, I feel like everybody changes and all that, but that kind of was one thing that I just hated from the beginning. I just don't like drama. It's just not for me. But you're in a group full of girls, so of course there's gonna be drama. So the second thing that I'm gonna talk about actually kind of, I feel like, goes with the first of drama, but this is centering around cliques. So obviously, once again, when you're with a bunch of people, people are going to have their friend groups. And one thing that was really prominent in the sorority I was in, and I'm not saying this is all sororities, but the one I was in, family trees. So bigs, littles, grand bigs, like all of that. That was kind of where people would start their cliques. And so it'd be like, you'd have a family and another family, and they'd be really close, but they wouldn't like these people. And it was like, I don't know. I just wasn't really about that. I've always felt like this, and I say this even like when I've been at work or high school or college or anything. I'm a floater. I'm very much the type of person who I vibe with a lot of people, and I tend to like to talk to people. So for instance, in high school, I always had a core group of friends, which are like my 3 best friends that I'm still friends with. Like, that was my core group, has always been my core group. Like, that was my core group. However, I was also a cheerleader, so I had friends that were cheerleaders. I was also in band, so I had friends that were in band. Those didn't really cross over that often. I was in theater, so I had friends from theater. Didn't really cross over too much. You know, and then I just had like friends that like I had known from like years of going to school in the same city. Like, it was just, I had a lot of friends, and it was like, yes, I have my core group, which is like clique, I guess, if you want to say, but I was never like, you know, super into just one group that I only hung out with. I would always hang out with people from different groups, and that's the way I've always been. I'm just not a cliquey person. If I vibe with somebody from one group of people, like, I'll hang out with them. Like, it's not like one of those things where I just hang out with one specific group always. Like, yes, I have a core group, which are my friends, which are the people I depend on, but I would never just, I guess, like, box myself into one group. I just very much consider myself a floater, where if I vibe with people, I will hang out with them, talk to them, whatever. So the cliques for me really didn't work. I got along with a lot of girls in the sorority. I would hang out, talk to a lot of them. There were girls that I would hang out with that didn't like other girls I hung out with. And it was just a very like cliquey situation. And I don't know, I'm just not about that. Once again, I'm not about drama. So the cliques for me is obviously something I'm not super into. But I feel like it's just one of those situations where you do end up in cliquey situations, because when you have 100+ girls, not everybody's going to get along. Everybody's going to form their own groups. And while you might have a core group, I think that's fine. I just don't think it's okay to completely like not talk to other groups of people. I don't know. Especially when you're in a sisterhood and you're supposed to all be sisters and friends and family, but then you literally hate like this whole group of people because your family does. I don't know. I'm not into it. So the cliques for me were another thing. But I feel like that and drama kind of go together. So cliques and drama, not for me. Number 3 on things that I absolutely hated was the required events. Oh my God, I hated required events. And this is the thing. So when I first joined the sorority, I joined when I was a freshman. And I honestly, I didn't have a job when I first joined. I was very much like free time. I was super into like meeting people, blah, blah, blah. So I would go to almost every single event that we had, mandatory or non-mandatory. I would show up. The summer after I joined, I ended up getting a job and I started working and I started, you know, earning my own money, and my parents expected me to pay for a lot more stuff, which is totally reasonable because I'm an adult. So, you know, I was paying for a lot more stuff on my own and all of that. And so required events would come up, which like recruitment's a required event. There would be like certain events that we were sponsoring, which were required events that you had to be at. And we started having a lot less of the optional events and a lot more mandatory. So if you didn't show up to these mandatory required events, you would basically get fined. So for instance, every Sunday, you have a chapter, which is like kind of like a meeting of the sorority. It's like a weekly meeting where you guys discuss things. So they are required for you to be at. Like if you're a member of the sorority, you are required to be at every single one of these, and they would be at like 6 o'clock every Sunday, every week. Like it was ridiculous. And I remember specifically there was one time where me and my roommate, because we were both in the sorority, we were running late. Like we were just running late. I mean, it was our own fault, but we were running late. We get there, it's too late. Like we cannot get in because once it starts, you can't come in, you can't interrupt it. Like that's just one of the rules. Kind of stupid because honestly, you don't really talk about that much important stuff, to be completely honest with you. It's literally not that important, to be honest. Like if I'm being real, like they would repeat a lot of the same things every single week. But there is like secret stuff with sororities, so that's like why you couldn't go in, because like if you interrupted, people who are there could possibly see, blah blah blah. I get it, but like it was kind of dumb in my opinion. So we couldn't get in. We end up, because we are not there and it's a required event, we end up getting a fine. And I can't remember how much the fine was. I think it was literally like $25 or something for missing this. And it was the dumbest thing because I was 2 minutes late. 2 minutes. And I totally understand that I should have been more responsible. I should have been on time. We were running late. We hit traffic. Whatever. But $25 for missing this. And I know $25 isn't a ton of money, but if you think about it, it's $25 for missing something where we were probably talking about stuff that we literally talked about the week before. So it was really dumb and annoying, and it was kind of like that for any other event. So if you miss, say we were sponsoring something and like it was sponsored by us, so we were technically, because we were sponsoring it, we were required to be there. If you missed it, it would be like $30 fine, blah blah blah. And it was just like they would throw fines out like it was nothing. Recruitment is like so much money for missing it. I think per round it's like $100 or something like that. Like it's something ridiculous. And there's like 7 rounds in like a day. So if you think about that, that's like $700 by the end of that. It was just stupid stuff. I was like, are you kidding? Like, I'm sorry. Like that's just so dumb to me. And like I said, we used to have a lot of like optional events. Like you could come, like they're optional. It just started to be like they weren't optional anymore because they would get mad because people wouldn't come or people wouldn't show up. So then it's like, okay, well, we'll put a fine on them if they don't show up, and then that way they have to show up, or if they don't show up, we get money out of them. And that's how I felt like it was, and that pissed me off because my ass, I worked hard as for, I don't want to cuss, I worked so hard like for my money, and it wasn't even funny. Like I worked so hard, and I'm not gonna pay you because I miss an event or because I have to work or because of this. I'm not paying you. And that just pissed me off. So yeah, I hated required events. I thought they were stupid. Some of them were literally pointless and dumb, and like I didn't care about them. And yeah, it was just honestly really stressful. And I totally get it. We should be there for our events, but you have to accept that people have jobs, people have other things. We're in school, people have things they have to do. Like I remember one girl was like, she was studying for exams and they were trying to put on a required event. Like it's just dumb, and I don't know. I'm just not about that. I do think it teaches you some sense of responsibility in a way, but at the same time, they weren't paying me. I was paying them to be a part of this, so I don't know. Required events were just kind of stupid in my opinion. Obviously, I went to the ones that I needed to go to, but it just started to be like when there were optional events, I wouldn't go to the optional events anymore because there would be like 2 optional events, and I'm like, well, I just went to 6 required events this semester, so the 2 optional ones, I'm gonna not. Number 4 also kind of, I feel like, goes with number 3 because I was just talking about money and all of that, But money in general was one of the things I hated about being in a sorority. It's so expensive for no reason. Like, if we're being honest, it's so expensive for no reason. I'm trying to think on the price point that I paid, because one time me and my roommate were talking about it. We were thinking about like how much we spent per semester. And I think per semester, honestly, it was probably around like $700 a semester, so like $1,400 a year. And that's just like a ridiculous amount to hang out with girls. Sitting there like, what am I getting out of this, honestly, besides the t-shirts and besides like the, I guess, recognition of being in the sorority? Like, what am I getting out of this that I'm spending so much money for? $700 a semester when you are a college student is ridiculous. And my parents did not pay for my stuff, okay? I paid for everything out of my own pocket. So me, I was working so much to pay for this. It was stupid. And I think it's one of those things where I'm not trying to say that like everybody had their parents paying for them, but a lot of the girls who were like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing ever, and like loved it, their parents were paying for it. So it was basically like a free activity for them to do. If it had been a free activity for me to do, I definitely probably would have stayed longer, if not my entire 4 years. But it was not a free activity for me. It was like a commitment and a payment. And like, if you think about it, $700 a semester, you know how much makeup I could buy with that? You know how many clothes I could buy with that? You know how many other things that I could have if I wasn't spending $700 on that? So yeah, I mean, being a sorority was all fun and games, but like, the money was so stupid. And like I was talking about with the required events, like you could get charged fines, and I'm like, I am working my ass off every single week to make money so I can pay for the sorority. So money was a complete turn off. That's honestly the biggest reason why I ended up leaving. I mean, there was a lot of reasons, but if you watch my other video, I kind of talk about it. But honestly, money was like one of the top reasons, because I don't know. And my roommate had the same thing where she was like, she could make car payments and get a car instead of paying for that. So that's what she decided to do. And I think that's super smart on her part, because she had a car, she was able to drive around. I was able to stop driving her around. It was really nice. So yeah, I mean, that's just how it goes sometimes, and there's nothing wrong with that. And personally, I'm really glad that I stopped spending money on that, because as fun as I had like my first year, well, actually more like my first 6 months, I wouldn't change it. I definitely saved a ton of money, and yeah, I don't regret it, honestly. And the last thing that I absolutely hated about being in a sorority, and I'm sure you guys, if you watched my last video, you will know what this is. It is recruitment. I hated recruitment. I went through 2 recruitments, one formal, one informal, and I hated every minute of it. I hated it so much. I honestly think part of the reason I left is because I was like, I cannot physically go through another one of those. It was the worst. I talk about it a lot in my other video, how I thought it was a very fake process. I didn't enjoy the process. It just didn't feel like a natural flow. I mean, I go in on it kind of in that video, so if you want to know more on that. But in general, I didn't like recruitment. I just thought there was so much preparation for something that should be, I feel like, a fluid thing. Like, I don't know, I feel like if you vibe with people, like, you shouldn't have to force it. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know, it's just, it feels very forced, and it feels very like fake and like configured. And I talk about how the sororities know so much about the girls that are going through, but the girls like don't really know anything about it. So like, people obviously are playing it up. There's a lot of fakeness. It's a lot of like pretending to be someone you're not. I almost relate it to the fact that like, you're talking to these girls and you're putting on a show for them. Like, you are putting on a show. You're basically working your acting skills. I remember a girl asking me like how much it cost, and I was like, oh, it's really not that much, like, per month. I was like, you know, you had new payments, and I was like, it's really good. And I was like, at the end of the day, like, you're getting like so much beneficial. And in my head, I'm like, I am lying to this girl. I'm spending so much money on this sorority. I knew I was lying to her, but it was like, you're putting on a show for them. And it was just the, I don't know, I hated recruitment, and it was so long, and it was so many hours, and it was just so stupid. And I remember there was one time where me and some of my friends, literally, we leave from a recruitment thing and we go to Taco Bell, and we're sitting there, and all we are doing for like the next 2 hours is bitching about how much we hated it. and it just, at that moment, I was like, I hate it. And then we did an informal recruitment in the spring, which was a whole other kind of like annoying, and I don't know, I just hated it. And I know that it's part of the process, and I can appreciate that to a certain extent, but it was horrible. And I think it's one of the worst parts about being in a sorority, and just everything about it was just not good. So yes. Yeah, that is the 5 things that I absolutely hated about being in a sorority. And I realize some of these might sound petty or might sound dumb, but that's just my personal experience. And there were many things I liked about it. I enjoyed a lot of the conversations I had. I enjoyed, you know, meeting new people. I enjoyed like the social aspects. I enjoyed that at the end of the day, I felt like I left a more confident person. I know how to talk to people a lot more. I used to be a lot more in my shell. I'm a lot more open with people now. And you know, I think that that had something to do with it. But at the end of the day, I made the right choice for me. And like I said, I'm never trying to steer people to do something or to not do something. I think it's very much a personal choice. I'm just giving my opinions and what I've kind of went through. And I can look back on it now with a more clear vision, because I think when I first left, I had a very negative, like, I guess, view of being in a sorority because I didn't enjoy my time. But at the end of the day, now I can look back on it and see the positives and just know that like I left for me. And that's where I'm like, okay, I made the decision for myself, and it ended up benefiting me in the end. But I can definitely see the positives, and there's friendships that I formed which are really good and positive. So I don't know, I don't completely regret the experience, but I do not regret my decision to leave. So yeah, I thought I would just share this with you guys. Let me know down below if you've been in sorority, things that you liked or didn't like. And yeah, I mean, like I said, never trying to steer anybody any certain way. I just wanted to kind of make this continuation video since it was in my head now. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I will talk to you guys in my next one. Bye!